my husband and I went to bed. He's on the sofa watching a movie with two friends and woke up at 3 a.m. and his dad found him on the couch. And he's sitting up and he's barely breathing. And he calls me downstairs and I called 911 while his dad's doing CPR.
You know, sometimes I make mistakes in my life. Life goes on and on and on and on and on. Yeah, hey, I got wisdom from my papa. He ain't have a lot of money, but he taught me how to keep the perfect posture. So folding under pressure, that ain't something that I'm about to. Crabs in the barrel, I'm just trying to be a lobster. I hit my cousin, told him to call. It's been 12 years and I ain't heard from him at all. Had a little fallout over some money. Damn, ain't it funny how the smartest people be beefing like they some dummies? But I hope you doing swell now. Hope your family well now.
Welcome to Primary Purpose. I'm your host, Pej. Today, we have a very special guest by the name of Jody Barber. Now, Jody embodies the theme and the topic for today, which is turning grief into action. Jody lost her son when he was 19 years old in 2010 to accidental overdose to prescription drugs, of all things. Jody, she's helping a lot of different people. She immediately became an advocate and wanting to help other parents who may have children that are struggling, kids that are struggling, loved ones that are struggling. And by doing so, she's done many different things. She created a film. It's a documentary called Overtaken, and then also a part 2, Overtaken Part 2. And this is actually used in many different rehabs. It's used in a lot of DUI classes, in courts, as a demonstration to show many different people that are success stories that have come out of addiction. Jody also has been previewed on Dr. Oz. She was on Dr. Drew's show, and she is now still remains an advocate in helping many different people who have loved ones that are struggling with addiction or with alcoholism. Jody's a powerful force in our community. She helps a lot of people. I am very, very excited to have her on today's episode. Let's begin. Welcome to the show, Jody.
Thank you very much. I appreciate being here.
It's awesome. I've known about you over the years. I've known about what you do. I never knew you personally. We're friends on Facebook, but Dana definitely said a lot of great things about you, and I've known somewhat about your journey. I've followed you on Facebook to see what has happened to you, but I'd like to hear more about you from you today. So if you'd be so kind, tell us about who is Jody Barber, your background and everything that's happened as far as your son and all.
Oh, okay. Well, so my husband and I have been living in Laguna Niguel for 36 years. And we've been married for, 38 years. Mm-hmm. And we have two sons, and Jared and Blake. And Jared is the older son, and Blake is 4 years younger. And Jared was born in August 11th, 1990. And Blake was born in October 13th. He just turned 30. Jared had started smoking marijuana at a young age when he was a freshman in high school, 14 years old. Mm-hmm. Didn't catch him smoking pot until he was 17. Mm-hmm. And he was in his bedroom with a friend, and we came home from dinner and talked to him for about 2 hours. He cried. He said, "I'll never do it again." Well, he continued smoking weed, marijuana, pot, whatever you want to call it. And it was a struggle for his dad and I to stop him from smoking pot. It was a huge, huge problem. And I remember taking walks with my girlfriend and just crying over this, just saying, I don't know what to do. I just wanted him to graduate from high school and get that diploma. And, they said, put him in rehab. Well, Jared was very controlling. He was stubborn. And I thought he'd make friends there that were doing even stronger drugs.
A lot of parents think that. And sometimes they do.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So that was going through my process, through my head. And so I thought, well, let's, talk to a counselor, why do you have the need for marijuana? Why do you have to smoke it? And so he said, it's for my anxiety. Well, he was my little toddler on the street throwing his tantrums. So yeah, he was born with anxiety. I know he had it. But he said it helped him. It calmed him down. It was his medication. It just calmed his nerves. And I said, Jared, it's illegal. It's not healthy. You're getting in trouble at school because of the marijuana. Things were happening. Things were progressing because of the marijuana issue.
Yes.
And he wrecking his car, over and over until he finally got a DUI after turning 18 and went to jail overnight.
And was the DUI from smoking weed or for other stuff?
He didn't drink alcohol. He said it kills people, but he said marijuana doesn't kill you. And and he had marijuana in the system when he totaled his car and hit a tree and could have died with his friend in the car as well.
Wow.
He said he was looking down at his iPod to change the radio, the music.
Yeah.
And he went up this island, the middle divider, and
crashed.
It was pretty bad. But he walked out of it. He was fine. Neither one of them were hurt, thank God. But yeah, so things are going on because of the marijuana issue. Now he breaks his collarbone when he's almost 17. He's out dirt biking with his best friend, and they both broke their collarbones within a couple hours of each other. It was a nightmare trip for them.
Wow.
And so now the nurse calls me from the hospital and says, I have your son here. He's in pain, and I'm going to give him Vicodin. And I said, okay, thank you. If he's in pain, great. I didn't even know what it really was.
Yeah.
I had no idea what Vicodin was, how addictive it was, how it's heroin in a pill form, how a teenage brain can take to it and like it and keep taking it because he's addicted now. So I had no clue that Jared was still taking Vicodin after the pills, after he was prescribed the Vicodin. So where was he getting it from? Not from my medicine cabinet, but from, friends who were seeing a doctor. And this doctor was 45 miles away, and her name was Dr. Lisa Singh. And Dr. Lisa Singh was overprescribing to, I'd say, thousands of people all over. But in particular, in our area, in Orange County, she was prescribing to a lot of the teenagers. Whatever they asked for, in less than 5 minutes, they were in and out of her office, and it was all cash related. Jared didn't have cash, and that's why he got it from his friends who had the cash. And so they were, sharing the prescriptions, and they were getting high off of Vicodin. And then that led to Oxycontin. And now they're misusing Oxy. And they're crushing, and they're smoking, and they're snorting. And Jared is now addicted to Oxycontin. And I have, excuse me.
It's okay.
Take that out. Edit.
Yeah, they will.
Jared's addicted to Oxycontin, and so are his friends. And so now the manufacturers made it so you couldn't misuse the pill.
Yes, it went from oxys to roxys.
And now it went to something stronger. It was called Opana.
Opana, yes.
Oxymorphone. And that is a pill that is much stronger than Oxycontin.
Dana knows about those all too well.
That became,
Which they're not on the market anymore, is my understanding, unless you go on the black market.
Okay, yes.
But they're very powerful.
So they felt like they can rule the world. I mean, they cut it up into quarters and shared it, and then they either smoked or snorted it.
I was just going to ask you, were they smoking, snorting it, or just taking it orally?
He was smoking. And so him and his friends, a quarter of a pill. And so, they didn't die the first time.
Yeah.
They felt really good. I guess it's a feeling that I'll never understand.
Ultimate euphoria. Yes. Bliss, like blissful.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, and so it's so addictive that if they didn't have it,
yes,
now they'll go through a withdrawal. And they're scared of that. They don't want to go through those withdrawals because you feel like you're going to die, and it's a horrible feeling.
Sure.
And so Jared now, his friends, senior year in high school, these kids aren't thinking about football games and prom. They're thinking about where they're going to get their next fix.
Just to get high.
I mean, as soon as they wake up, that's all they're thinking
Yes.
about. It's so, so sad. But for me, not knowing the signs to look for, my husband and I, his dad, we had no clue that our son was addicted to prescription drugs. No idea.
Wow.
All this time when he came home extra quiet, extra happy,
Yeah.
we're thinking it's the weed, the marijuana he's smoking. I mean, that's all.
And at this point, you guys were just accepting of the marijuana smoking. It was nothing you
We
could do.
never accepted it.
You just let it be.
We just did not know what to do about it.
Oh, okay. Okay.
And
how old was he then? Well, how old was he at that time?
How old was he?
At that
so
time.
Jared's, he's 17, 18, 19. And so we really were at a loss. We didn't know. His friends were 18 years old. Jared's 17. His friends are 18. They're getting their medical card, and they can go to any clinic and get as much pot as they want.
Yeah.
And so Jared would go to these clinics and wait in the car or whatever, and he'd say, he was being honest with me. I knew he was smoking it,
Yeah.
And he'd say, "Mom, there's men in business suits. They're successful. Fathers, his friends' dads were smoking pot. I mean, so in his eyes, it was A-okay to smoke marijuana.
Right.
And nothing was going to stop him because he really enjoyed it. He really did. But he didn't realize his anxiety was getting worse because of the weed he was smoking.
Right.
There was an incident, I'll never know whether it was pills as well as the marijuana,
Yeah.
but there was an incident when he was 17 where we didn't allow him to drive his car, and he took my keys. And he thought he could just go and take my car instead. But his dad walked out and grabbed him and said, "You're not taking Mom's car." So they got into a physical fight in the house. Jared was, shoving his dad, and his dad's trying to hold him down, and vase broke. And I'm like, "Jared, stop. I'm going to call the police. I'm going to call the sheriffs on you." And he wouldn't stop. He was at such a rage. It's like he needed his fix. He needed to get going somewhere. And this is what I think about now. I didn't know that back then. Anyway, the sheriff came to the house, handcuffed him, put him in the car. And Jared was in the sheriff's car for about an hour, and he was hitting his head on the window, and his brother was watching from the window upstairs.
And it was
awful.
because he was so dependent for the drug that he was losing his mind?
That's what I believe. I mean, to go into such a rage because he couldn't take off and leave the house and go wherever he was going.
To get what he needed, yeah. Sad.
And so it was really a nightmare. It was just awful. And so the sheriff said, "We can take him in, and put him in a holding cell." He wasn't 18. I said, "It's okay." And he never did it again.
Yeah.
I mean, he did learn from this. But he did continue smoking weed.
Right.
But he didn't get into the alteration with his dad ever again.
Right.
So anyway, we were just so confused as to what to do. Marijuana, the THC levels today, different than when we were in high school. And so anyway, all that, the anxiety was just so bad with him. But again, I'll never know whether it was the combination with, Norcos were popular, Xanax was popular. His friends were getting those pills. So I would imagine Jared was taking them as well. I found out later on, after he passed, that one friend said he took some of his Adderall. So he went into some episodes as well, a few times where, oh my gosh, he thought if something happened to me, he doesn't know what he would do. He was so paranoid. He'd get into these paranoid states.
Kind of manic? Was he manic?
Pardon me?
Was he manic? Manic, like mania?
He was scared for me. He thought something was going to happen to me.
Major paranoia for you.
Yeah. And then one day going to school, I'm in the car with him, and he's looking at the guy at the red light next to us, and he thinks that he's staring at him, and he starts yelling at the man, just weird stuff like this. And it's like, wow, I'm thinking again, it's the marijuana because Jared was so careful he didn't he didn't drink alcohol. He said it kills people. And he said marijuana doesn't kill you. And it was just always about, the marijuana. And I'd catch him a couple of times in my backyard. And so that's what I thought it was this whole time. And so anyway, he breaks his collarbone. He's addicted to opioids now. And so we find him in our backyard one night in October, nodding off. And we knew he was on something stronger. It took 2 hours to get him to bed. It's freezing cold. I'm like, what are you doing, Jared? You're sleeping out here. He says, oh, I'm just nodding out. I'm like, what does that mean?
Yeah.
And so that's when my husband and I were like, what are we going to do? So we went to a psychologist. And the psychologist referred us to best doctor in Orange County. And, quote, best doctor in Orange County. So we went to that doctor, and he knew that Jared was addicted to opioids and marijuana. And at the very first visit, he promised us that his cravings will go away, and he prescribed pills. He prescribed anti-anxiety, antidepressants. So Jared's taking Prestige and Klonopin. Jared asked for the Klonopin, and he didn't want to give it to him at first, but then he agreed. So I'm monitoring, and I'm giving my son these pills each day. Now, it's October 2009. Jared, Thanksgiving Day, his whole family's at my house. He relapsed. My sister found a crushed pill in his room. He was high as a kite. He thought he can rule the world. He tells everybody we have a view out our backyard. He tells everybody, see it out here, it's bad. I want to help my friends. It was a nightmare. And so he relapsed. So I'm waiting for these prescription drugs to start working, as the doctor said they would. So now we switched the Prestige to Cymbalta. And he said, give him Cymbalta and still the Klonopin. And those weren't working. Now Christmas Day at Grandma's house, bloody nose. He relapsed again. It was terrible. And now that was in December. And now January rolls around. And now by this time, Jared's asking for 2 Klonopin a day, not 1. Wow. This is a benzodiazepine. This is like a Xanax, as you know.
Yes.
And if you mix benzos with opioids, that could be a deadly combination.
Sure.
So handing these pills out to somebody without any therapy in an outpatient setting was dangerous to do. So Jared now is on 2 Klonopin. I'm giving them to him, 1 in the morning, one needs 1 later in the day, and Cymbalta. And now it's January 6th, and 1 more visit with the doctor. And so this time I'm in the waiting room. I went into every visit. This time I'm in the waiting room. He walks out with 2 handful samples of Seroquel. Sample boxes, a whole bunch of them. And the doctor prescribed 3 to 4 Seroquel a day. And I thought he gave them all to me, the sample boxes.
Yes.
The next day, January 7th, 11 o'clock at night, my husband and I went to bed. He's on the sofa watching a movie with 2 friends and woke up at 3 in the morning. And his dad found him on the couch. And he's sitting up and he's barely breathing. And he calls me downstairs. And I called 911 while his dad's doing CPR. Jared relapsed on a quarter of Opana that night. He had his 2 Klonopin prescribed. He had Cymbalta that was prescribed. He had taken 1 sample box of Seroquel and took that. So he had 3 Seroquel that he took. And so he was in a drug-induced coma. And so the first responders came and worked on him, rushed him to the hospital where he was born, that Mission. And Jared passed away at 3:47 a.m. And then we had to go back home and tell his brother who was sleeping. And Blake was 15. At the time, and Jared was 19. And on January 8th will be 15 years since it happened. Sorry. So after Jared passed away, I discovered the doctor that I took him to was on a 5-year probation for reckless prescribing, giving him self-Seroquel samples.
That's Dr. Singh.
No.
Different
So this
doctor.
is a doctor I took him to get off of the opiates that Dr. Singh was prescribing
Yes.
to his friends.
There was a lot of dirty doctors back then.
Yes, exactly.
The early 2000s.
Yeah.
I got sober in 2007, and I was doctor shopping a lot, so that's how I know.
Yes, yes, exactly.
It was easily accessible a lot.
So there were dirty doctors, quite a few of them.
Yes,
Dr. Van Dyke. I can name
I'm
off
sure
quite
you
a
can.
few.
Yeah,
But I was all over Dr. Singh. So I had young adults come to my home and who saw her and expose her on the news. So they mentioned they were in and out of her office in less than 5 minutes with all these combinations, 300 Vicodin in a bottle, 90 Opana, anything they asked for. And so the DEA was working on it. She had been under investigation for 2 years at the time.
yeah.
But I'm getting these empty pill bottles from other parents. So now because of the news, people are contacting me and they're telling me about their kids. And I'm like, give me the pill bottles. And I hand
So
them,
you could figure out who the doctors were?
it was Dr. Lisa Singh.
Oh, it was always her.
Her name was everywhere. I'd be in Lake Forest in a jewelry store, and I have a tattoo of my son. And the lady saw it, and she says, "What happened?" Or what's the story? I told her. She says, "Just a minute." She goes out into the back of her room of her store. She comes in with this baggie filled with empty pill bottles that her son was addicted to from Dr. Lisa Singh.
Wow.
So I said, "Can I have them?" So anyway, the DEA was working on it. And so anyway, after Jared passed away, I find out 2 weeks later, a close friend of his died in his bathroom with a needle in his arm from heroin.
Wow.
So these kids now that were addicted to the prescription opioids, now they were expensive, and it led to the cheaper heroin on the streets.
Yeah.
That was much cheaper. So now these kids that, are straight A students and cheerleaders and football players, they are shooting heroin alone
Yeah.
in their rooms. And it was just tragic. So his friend died 2 weeks later, and then I found out about another friend 6 months later, and then another friend 11 months after.
Right.
They were all great friends. They played Little League baseball together since middle school. They were friends,
Right.
and so now they're dying, and it's like, this is preventable, and so I got on this mission, and so I put up this poster.
Let me see that thing. Go ahead and show it to the camera, please. Tell us about it.
So I put up this poster of 24 faces of kids in all the business windows, Starbucks, to get the word out.
And these were all local kids?
These are our local kids from our area.
Okay.
And this is just a few of them that fit on a poster this size. But I had my phone number on the top, and I started getting calls for help. And the calls were coming in like crazy. And to this day, I still get calls for help. So I try to, do my best to give them resources and get them the help they need. But this is Jared, and these are all his close friends that died. And they were beautiful kids, and they were at my home a lot. And I knew them well, and I knew their personalities, and they were sweet and beautiful and respectful. And these beautiful kids here who all passed, from Dana Hills High School, Elisa Miguel High School, San Clemente High School. I mean, it's just tragic. And there's a boy, Nolan, from Aliso Viejo, who was 15 years old. I mean, he was dropped off from friends, older friends of his dropped him off. He was so high on pills, and they knew that. but they dropped him off 2 blocks from home, high as, just really loaded. And he died on a neighbor's porch. And Joey from San Clemente, beautiful young man who was he was like overdosing. They didn't know what to do with him. He was really high. So his friends, so-called friends, and
that's what I always say. So-called friends. Like a lot of people say, well, I was with my friends. You mean to tell me you were with your using buddies? So-called friends.
So-called friends.
Yeah.
And they dropped him in dirt.
Right.
By J. Sarah. And that's where his parents go with flowers every angelversary. I mean, they're just all beautiful kids.
Yeah.
So
So sad.
the poster, I got on my mission with the poster to spread awareness. And then, I'm sorry about my allergies.
No, don't worry about it. I was just going like this with my nose. Oh my God. Has nothing to do with you.
It's just terrible. I've got the worst allergies. A lady that saw my poster in a store called me and asked to help me in any way. She has kids of her own, so we met at Starbucks, and we decided that we wanted to, spread more education about this problem in schools. So we produced a couple of documentaries.
Yeah, tell me about the documentaries. What are they called?
Yeah, so Christina and I produced Overtaken.
Okay.
And Overtaken is on YouTube. It's part of the health curriculum in schools across the nation.
I love it.
It has a lesson plan.
Good.
And it consists of several young adults from our area, Orange County, sharing their stories of addiction and what happened to them.
Yes.
They are like powerful, powerful stories to share. And so...
You mean kids that overcame their addiction?
They overcame their addictions. Yes. With that said,
yes,
I produced Overtaken 2.
Okay.
Where Are They Now? The Message of Hope. So I'm presenting at Hoag Hospital to clients there who were there for recovery. And I'm showing them Overtaken 1. And this was not produced yet. And after Overtaken, I realized they're all clean and sober from this one.
Yeah.
And I said, maybe I need to do a sequel. And everyone said, yes, please do.
Okay.
So I did. So Overtaken 2 is The Message of Hope. Both of them are on YouTube, and they can be watched there.
I love it. I absolutely love it.
Yeah.
What a powerful story. You know that our topic today is turning grief into action. And I know I get a lot of phone calls from a lot of parents, but over the years, I've known some parents who have lost their loved ones that have taken it to the next level and don't want to suffer in silence, but instead they have taken their grief into action, just like you do, Jody. And so it touches my heart to know that this is on a national level, being talked about in schools, being taught in schools, raising awareness. I know that you do a lot of events or get people to come speak in schools, most definitely. I know that about you. And I think we have a lot more to talk about in relation to that because I got great things to tell you. And that's on a personal level. I'm going to ask some questions, and I really appreciate your honesty, your vulnerability, and everything that you've been through because I felt your emotions. Like I don't have my own kids, but I can't imagine what it would be like for you to lose your son. But, I like what you're doing. One of my questions to you is, how do you stay motivated to fight the prescription drug epidemic even after such devastating loss?
Well, I stay motivated. I hear the success stories. And so my motto is, as long as you're walking, talking, and breathing, there's hope. And that motivates me to keep doing this because these are beautiful kids that passed away and they had so much life ahead of them. And it's important that they are educated, these kids that are out here. And especially today, we have younger kids now, 13, 14 years old, that are dying and they're not addicted to any drug. They are experimenting for the first time. And they're going on Snapchat or online or from a friend or from somebody they know, and they're wanting to buy what they think is a Xanax for anxiety. or they think it's a Percocet.
Sure.
And it's containing fentanyl, as we know. And fentanyl is so potent that the tip of my pinky finger can kill someone.
Sure.
And it's being laced into pills that look exactly like the real thing.
Mm-hmm. They're pressed pills
They're pressed pills.
that look like those, but they're
being manufactured.
They're counterfeit.
Yeah, they're counterfeit, and they're
Yeah.
being manufactured by drug dealers in garages.
Yes.
And so these kids, though, we need to get to the root of the issue here.
Mm-hmm.
Why do they even want to experiment, especially with today's society and all these overdoses? And the parents are talking to them about these overdoses. Why are they wanting to experiment with a pill when they know that it can become addicting, or it can contain fentanyl? Why are they wanting to still try it? And so that, we need to just keep talking about this.
Sure. Okay, my next question to you is, what's the hardest part of sharing your son's story to save other families from the same pain?
The hardest part? The hardest part about sharing Jared's story is the fact that he's not here. The fact that my son died. You're not supposed to die before your parents. And the fact that his brother is here without him, the siblings, best friends. And so Blake now lives without his brother. And that's the hardest part, not having him here with us as a family.
I understand. It can't be easy.
We don't know where he'd be today, And that's the question I always have in my mind. And that's the question that many of us parents have. Where would our kids be today? Would they be okay? Or would they still be addicted? Would they be in jail? Would they be married and having kids and successful? There's so many different questions in our heads.
I mean, just looking at those pictures, that whole row of friends that used to come and hang out at your house, all gone. I mean, come on, the saying "gone too soon" couldn't be more pertinent. I mean, that's crazy.
I think about when they were little, and they're playing Xbox and just like, no drugs involved, just fun, loving kids, and making them their dinners and, hanging out. And then as they got older, after Jared got his DUI, he couldn't drive. And to me, having them at my home, knowing what they're doing, and I felt safe. I felt safe for myself and safe for them, knowing that they were at the house. But what they were doing when I went to sleep, because they stayed at my house pretty late.
Yeah.
And they hung out in my backyard.
Right.
And I mean, I couldn't babysit Jared, and I couldn't chain him to the bed, and I couldn't babysit his friends. So when I was at a baseball game with my other son for 3 hours at a time, twice a week, what were they doing at my house while I was at the baseball games? There's a lot of questions there.
Yeah.
And it was uncontrollable, honestly.
Next question is, what do you wish every parent knew about the dangers of prescription drugs?
What do I wish I'm sorry.
What do you wish parents? What do you wish every parent knew about the dangers of prescription drugs?
Okay, thank you. What I wish parents knew about the dangers of prescription drugs is the fact that for the teenage or for the young adolescent's brain that's not fully developed yet, this can be dangerous. They have different side effects to these prescription drugs, and a lot of these prescription drugs are powerful and addicting. And so the deadly combinations that are out there,
Yes.
that's important for them to know. If they mix Xanax with alcohol, they could die. So they need to be aware of what can happen to their kids, if they have a minor injury today, or if they have a wisdom tooth pull.
How addictive it could become, like the dependency that can come about.
So
and the accessibility.
Yes.
You mentioned earlier it wasn't out of your medicine cabinet, but there's a lot of kids that find it in grandma's medicine cabinet or some of their parents. Or
Oh, yeah. So if you bring that up, let me, Christmas, before Jared passed away, just a few weeks before, at Christmas, at Grandma's house, Jared had told me before that day that Grandma had Vicodin in her medicine cabinet. So now on Christmas Day, Jared is causing a scene. He's high. He had a bloody nose. He's a mess. And now he's saying that his ribs were broken and that Mom and Dad won't take him to the doctor for his broken ribs. He was riding his bike around. He didn't have broken ribs. But Grandma got this bandage, and kept wrapping his ribs around with this bandage. And Jared ripped it apart. He took it off, and he caused this horrible scene. What he was probably hoping for was Grandma had Vicodin in her medicine cabinet. He didn't want to steal it from her, but maybe she'd give him one.
oh, wow.
It was awful. So anyway, yes.
Okay, how can we prevent another mother from experiencing the heartbreak you went through?
From experiencing,
The heartbreak that you went through. How can we prevent another mother
yes.
from experiencing the heartbreak that you went through?
So prevention is so important. And the way to prevent this is by showing up to these events. There's a lot of events, and I've done several, and I organized a lot of events each year. There's a lot of parent nights at schools where 10 parents show up to. Show up to these events and to the parent nights and hear everyone's story and get educated on the dangers of prescription drugs. They have to be educated. If I knew then what I know now, I know maybe it's very possible that Jared would be here today.
Wow.
So that to me is extremely important for parents to be educated.
And it would have, you're saying that because if you had been educated, you could have maybe done some other things about it.
If I knew the signs to look for,
Yeah.
if I knew how dangerous prescription drugs were and the signs to look for and how prevalent it was and how all these kids were doing it, yeah, maybe I could have done something more. It's just,
What was the moment you decided to turn your grief into action and become an advocate?
the moment I turned grief into action was immediate. After Jared passed away, and his friends told me that Jared was addicted to Opana, and what Opana was, what they told me what it was, and how all these kids were getting it, I immediately got on it. I'm like, how did this doctor, Dr. Lisa Singh, how was she able to prescribe to 18-year-old kids these powerful, powerful pills? I mean, I just couldn't, it was just mind-boggling to me. And so I just immediately, started working on this.
Was she prosecuted?
Yeah. So so there were several lawsuits against her, civil lawsuits and criminal lawsuits. And she was found guilty of second-degree murder, 3 counts of second-degree murder, and 21 more counts. So she's in jail 30 years to life.
Oh my God.
And she was the first physician found guilty for something like this. So
Wow.
so we're hoping that other physicians would see this and realize they can't continue to do.
Overprescribing or just prescribing to kids.
The overprescribing was so bad back then. And I helped pass laws to make that stop. We needed this to stop.
Good on you. Good on you.
So, the problem is people say, well, now that those laws were passed, they're not able, the chronic pain people, they're not able to get their opioids any longer. And a lot of them are dying because they turned to the streets. But you know what? They were turning to the streets no matter what. Back then, it started with the heroin because it was cheaper. The opioids are expensive. So they were still turning to the streets and dying from heroin. And so, it doesn't matter.
It doesn't. How do you cope with the daily emotional toll of reliving your son's story for the greater good?
How do I cope with it? Mm-hmm. Well, I have learned something that I have a beautiful family. I have my beautiful son here, Blake, and my beautiful husband, Bill. And I'm blessed. And they are my blessings. And God is a blessing. And Jared is now a blessing. He is our angel. And I know that he's with me. And I know that he's watching over a lot of people. I get those signs from above. And they're powerful. And my mom died before Jared, and I never saw any signs. But when Jared passed away, the day it happened, the sign came. And from that day forward to today, I still get those signs. Don't ever kill a bee, because bees are the sign.
Yeah.
I get other signs as well, but just powerful stuff. So I cope with this because I learned to change my mindset. You have to change your mindset. When you're feeling sad or mad or whatever the feeling is that your son's not here physically, you have to change that mindset around.
Did I hear you say earlier angelversary?
Angelversary?
Yeah. Did you say that? Like it's an anniversary of the angels?
The anniversary.
Of the angels. Your son's like an angel overseeing. I thought that's what you had said earlier.
No, on January 8th, in a few weeks, will be his angelversary since I
That's
lost
what I
my
meant. Okay, that's what I meant. Yeah. I heard
January 8th.
Angelversary. I like that.
Angelversary.
Oh.
Yeah, that's what all the parents, on Facebook, we all say something about our kids and the on the angelversary day. We support each other.
I absolutely love that.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
Okay. What has been the most surprising thing you've learned on your journey as an advocate for overdose prevention? What has been the most surprising thing you've learned on your journey as an advocate for overdose prevention?
Oh, the most surprising thing I've learned.
Yes.
I think the most surprising thing is that as long as you work the program and you work on it, you can get better. There is hope.
Yes.
And so, for many back then when Jared and his friends were dying, I mean, it's like, whoa, what is going on? All I kept hearing about were deaths. Another death, another death, another. That's all I was hearing were about the deaths. So I think the most surprising thing is that, you know what? Not everyone dies. If they work the program, they can get better. They can live a happy life and live a long, long life as long as they work on their sobriety. So
Awesome.
yeah.
How has losing your son shaped your perspective on life and what truly matters?
Okay, so live your life to the fullest. I live for the simplest things. Just the wind. And I mean, any little thing matters to me. It's just, you don't need materialistic things. You don't need vacations. You don't need, fancy cars. Life is precious, and you only have life on earth one time. So live it to its fullest.
I love it.
Yeah.
Wonderful. If you could change one law to help combat prescription drug use, what would it be? I mean, it sounds like you already have.
If I can change
one law to help combat prescription drug abuse, what would it be?
So education.
Okay.
Yeah. Awareness, what you're doing, podcasts.
Okay.
That's important. And yeah, just getting the word out constantly, talking about the success stories.
Yeah. What message would you give to families who are silently struggling with prescription drug addiction?
One more time.
What message would you give to families who are silently struggling with prescription drug addiction?
I would say don't wait. Don't wait. Don't ignore it. If you see any signs, you start searching their pockets, you look in their room, you look for anything that you can find that shows that they're using, and do something about it. And don't ignore it. Confront them. You're the parent, so you need to confront your kids and say, okay, I'm going to drug test you, and continue to drug test them. Because say, I trust you, but we're living in a different world today. So I love you, and that's why I'm going to drug test you. I love you. That's, yeah. And also, I just want to mention prevention, naloxone, Narcan. Narcan reverses a drug overdose, and it's important for every family. I don't care if your son is a straight A student, it can happen to your son or daughter. They need to have Narcan in their homes, in their cars, in their purses, anywhere. Because I'll tell you, it was crazy after Jared and his friends were dying. I was seeing overdoses on the sidewalks. I was seeing kids who were friends in cars, and they're going to parks. I'd follow them because I see this girl nodding off in the car. And where are they going to take her? They took her to a park. And I said, what are you doing? This girl is overdosing. You need to call 911 now. So it was just so crazy. So Narcan is so important and you can buy it, at a pharmacy. There's organizations that give it out for free. So everyone should carry Narcan.
Love it. I want to thank you so much for coming out and being on the podcast today. Where can people find you, Jody, if they wanted to get a hold of you?
Oh, thank you. So I'm on Facebook, Instagram, Jody Barber. I also have my website, overtakenlives.org. And they can email me from there.
Okay.
And I appreciate it so much. And I follow you and your Instagram videos, and your messages are incredibly important. They are so awesome. I didn't realize who you were until recently. And after I saw your first video on Instagram, it was like, oh my goodness, everyone needs to follow you because you are full of information.
Thank you. I mean, we speak the same language. We what I've heard from you today, just in the podcast, is we both raise awareness. We're both educating. We're both about prevention. A lot of what you said about kids and their brains not developing, you would be surprised, Jody, and as you get to know me better, how many kids on TikTok or various outlets will send me messages asking me questions. What do you they're in the experimental phase, a lot of them. Some are in the full-blown addictive phase. And obviously we're in a different era than when your son was doing real prescription drugs. You know as well as I know, what's out there right now is a lot more counterfeit pills, addiction that is mostly fentanyl. I think you understand as much as I understand that these days when we hear about an overdose, it's usually always going to be fentanyl in most cases. A lot of the stuff that people are getting are off the dark web or however they're getting it. It's not just in grandma's medicine cabinet anymore. It's more accessible because people can get it. But I have this conversation with kids all the time where they want to ask me questions. What if I'm doing this? What if I'm doing that? What do you think if I smoke pot right now, if I do some LSD or my other friend is doing heroin? And I tell them often, I'm like, there's no more heroin out there. There's not heroin out there. What we're seeing more and more of is, and another thing is like your little brain that's in your head is not going to finish developing until you're 30 years old. Used to be 25, right? Yeah. I had a doctor on the show. It was he said 30 is when the brain actually finishes developing. So you can potentially stunt your mental, your emotional, your spiritual growth because you can't really mature into the person that you're meant to be because you're debilitating yourself physically and mentally to the
Yeah.
point where you can't be a normal grown up, right?
Yeah.
Like growing up into your body because you've been high for so long. So let's keep fighting a good fight. We have a lot to talk about off the air, but I really appreciate you coming out today. You're so awesome.
Oh, thank you. And do you agree that, okay, yes, fentanyl, it is all about the fentanyl, the dust today.
Yeah.
But do you agree that the majority, although it is happening with younger and younger kids,
Yes.
but the majority of those that are addicted to fentanyl or who have died started with a prescription of opioids?
Actually, that's a very good question. Let's expand on that a little bit. We're in a different era now. Yes, from back in our day, I think the typical thing that kids would use is marijuana and alcohol at first.
Yeah.
And it could turn into other things. Later on, we could get into hallucinogens, or we could get into stimulants, or we could get into opiates, but it sometimes first started with some gateway type of substances like alcohol or marijuana. What I think is happening these days is because kids are highly influenced by other kids, some of them may have never even tried marijuana, or they think marijuana is not for them because it makes them paranoid, or they don't like alcohol because it kills people. But suddenly somebody tells them, just try some opiates. Just try some. Look what I found in grandma's medicine cabinet, or look what I found on the dark web. Try this. It'll make you feel good.
Yeah.
So, and I've met, because of the line of work I'm in, I have met many, many youngsters that have been addicted to opiates, let's say, that their first drug of choice was an opiate or a benzodiazepine.
Yes.
Yes. Because they get their hands on somebody else's prescription drugs, and that's what they start off with, not even really getting into the softer stuff, if you will, right? Like not to say like alcohol is a soft drug, because it is a drug, and it could definitely become very, very life-threatening. But let's say like marijuana is seen as, even though it's highly potent, much more potent than what we used to have back in our day, but it is a very, very, like, these drugs that kids are getting into. I hope that answered your question. It's more common that I see a lot of youngsters that then, because they get into an opioid addiction, at this point, once they're introduced to fentanyl, however it may be, whether it's snuck into some kind of drug that they think is a drug, or once they've gotten a taste of the fentanyl is so powerful that it captivates their minds, and it makes, they don't care at some point. It's not even psychological anymore, other than the fact that I need to have more of that stuff. I know it's powerful. I know it's killing a lot of people, but I need it. I don't care what anyone says. And then they start doing more and more of it until they're just a full-blown fentanyl addict.
Yeah. So, are we still on?
Yeah, no, keep asking.
I just want to mention, because this is really, really important.
Yes.
I have a friend who works at a company, and they now have a test to check to see if you have the genetics for addiction to opioids. It's called AVERT-D, and it's a nasal swab. And so before you are prescribed that first prescription for opioids after a surgery, it's an optional test that you can take to see if you have the DNA. And so if you have that gene, you may want to, there's other options out there.
Because you could potentially gain an addiction. Is that what it is?
Mm-hmm.
I got to look into that more.
AVERT-D.
AVERT-D.
It's going to save a lot of lives if people do choose to use it, because it is optional.
Wow.
But it's fantastic.
Wow. Thank you for coming out today. I really, really thank you for opening up about everything. And thanks for everything that you're doing for the community and for so many people.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate
you're
being here.
You're a great lady, and we need more like you.
And I hope my makeup's not smeared.
I hope mine isn't either. Thank you.
Because I usually walk out and it's like, oh, nobody told me.
No, you're fine.
Yeah.
Have a good day. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Bye. Well, that was a very, very powerful episode. I really enjoyed having Jody on. I do want to talk a little bit about, the things that I think a lot of people are struggling with. There are a lot of people that struggle in silence. And I don't just mean the addicted ones. I mean the family members. A lot of people that live in secrecy. They're afraid that there's some kind of stigma that follows their loved one's addiction. So that while they're scrambling in the background to try to figure out what to do for their loved one, often they don't know who to talk to, if they should talk to anybody, if it's going to possibly affect their kid, however that may be, whether they are viewed a certain way or they think that if they were to say something or send their kid to treatment, will that affect them on paper for their futures? So a lot of times people will definitely not want to be too vocal about it, let alone a lot of people will sweep their loved one's addiction under the rug and not wanting to think that they actually have a problem. And now that you've heard, it could happen at any given time, especially in Jody's case, they didn't even know that their son was so addicted to prescription pills. They thought it was more of a marijuana problem. So with that said, we have to really think about this. We have to think, can marijuana lead to other types of addictions? Absolutely it can. A lot of people say marijuana is a gateway drug, although alcohol could be a gateway drug too. Either way. And then on top of that, these days, the way that it's going, are kids just becoming straight up opiate addicts? Are they becoming straight fentanyl addicts? As you saw, she asked me that question. And in my experience, I see this a lot. I mean, there's a lot of kids that they don't, straight out the gate, they're trying the heavier narcotics, things like opiates, things that are supposed to look like opiates, counterfeit drugs, counterfeit pills, things that are being pressed pills that have fentanyl in them. So the overdose rate is much higher than it's ever been before. She lost her son in 2010. It is now 2024. We are hearing about overdoses in mass majorities. It's happening at a much higher rate than it used to. So we really want to think about this. So what can be done? As far as I believe that more parents that do end up losing their kids or loved ones, if they could be more vocal about it, and we get more people to actually talk about their experience, then those that are suffering and struggling in silence can definitely learn from them, hopefully be guided by them, or at least learn from their experience to see the do's and don'ts of what should be done or not. Now, if you yourself have a loved one that's struggling and you don't know what to do about it, in case you don't know, besides the fact that I have this Primary Purpose podcast, I am a drug and alcohol and mental health interventionist. I am brought on a lot of times to help people with their loved ones that are struggling. On top of that, I do a lot of recovery coaching. So I get a lot of different types of guests on my podcast from all walks of life, but I specifically specialize in helping people with addiction, with alcoholism, with mental health. If you like this podcast, Primary Purpose, please subscribe. Please share it with other people. Please comment in the comment section. I would love to hear from you. And then on top of that, just, be in touch with me. If you need to get my phone number, you'll see it there on the website, or 310-596-9356. I also have a website named pejinterventions.com. Look to hear from you soon. We will have another episode coming on soon. You can find me on TikTok, which is at this time still in operation, I think. And then on top of that, you can also just call me or text me, and you can ask us questions. We would love to preview your questions on future podcasts.